Time for a long time in Boulder as Deion Sanders in Colorado agreed to a new 5-year extension worth $54 million yesterday. The deal keeps Sanders with the Buffaloes through 2029 and makes him the highest paid coach in the Big 12. Last season, in just his second year at Colorado, Sanders won 9 games, which was the program's first winning season since 2016. Cue the music. Let's go. There it is.
Now to college football and my man, the one and only primetime Deion Sanders. After 2 years with Colorado, head football coach Deion Sanders has landed 5 years of significant financial security. Via Brian Howell of the Boulder Daily Camera, the school has announced a new 5-year, $54 million deal for Prime Time, or Coach Prime. The $10.8 million per year agreement makes Coach Prime one of the highest paid college coaches in all of football, okay? He makes about $10 million in 2025, $10 in 2026, $11 in 2027, and 2028, and $12 million in 2029. Deion Sanders had $18.3 million left on his original 5-year, $29.5 million contract. The deal also features big buyout numbers should Prime want to leave for another job. Major props to him, well-deserved. Last season was a good season for him, much, much better than the first go-round, the first year. When he finished like 4-8. But let's take into account the magnitude of who Deion Sanders is and what we're talking about here. The attention he has brought to this program is what really warrants the dollars. See, there's a difference between being a star and being box office. When you're talking about stars, stars are people who show up and do their job at a very high level. They produce. But it doesn't always translate in the box office appeal, generating revenue for a multitude of platforms that you may have available to you. Deion Sanders is that dude for the University of Colorado. Wasn't a damn soul in America outside of Boulder thinking about Colorado before Deion Sanders arrived. Matter of fact, they were 1-11 before he arrived. They improved by 3 games his first year, by 4 on top of that the next year. The man is special. The man has done a great job. And his ability to recruit, I don't think anybody denies. It's going to be a challenge, no doubt about that, being in Boulder, Colorado. In my estimation, I've always been on the record. I would love to see him in the SEC if he's going to be in college football. I've always felt that way. But there is no denying the magnetism that he has. He's a box office dude. When he walks in, he owns the room. He is that dude. He's the one and only primetime. Got a lot of love for him. He deserves this contract. I'm happy for him. And all that noise about his son and brash and arrogant and all of this other stuff, Deion said he knows what quarterback coach said it about him, and it was dealt with. In the end, you're going to have people hating on Deion, and they're not going to want to deal with him. And maybe the thought of having to deal with him is what's turning them off about Shador. But if you want to win, here's a piece of advice from Stephen A. Get the hell over it. Prime is a winner. And anything he touches, I think, is upward mobility waiting to happen. That's just me.
The Fowler Files cost about the same amount of money. No, they don't. Maybe they do. I don't know. Jeremy Fowler is here with us now. Deion getting paid, it seems like, just in time for his son to take center stage this Friday at his pro day. Which teams are going to be paying close attention to Shador?
Well, Shay, from what I'm hearing, the Browns at 2, the Giants at 3, have Shador Sanders at least in consideration in the mix, although the Browns seem to be leaning pass rusher Abdul Carter at this point. But the tricky part with Sanders is where he falls, because I've texted with a half dozen high-level personnel people that I trust asking, is Shador Sanders a first-round talent? Do you have a first-round grade on him? 4 of those people said no. 2 of those people said that he's more of a mid to late first-round pick in their eyes. So we know quarterbacks get pushed up, get overdrafted, but to go in the top 3 at this point in the minds of many around the league would be pretty rich. So if he doesn't fall there, where does he fall? You know, the Saints have been doing a lot of quarterback work. They're picking 9th. The Pittsburgh Steelers, as we know, looking at a lot of quarterbacks, picking at 21. So he'll have a home. Maybe the Vegas Raiders, that would be a good fit behind Geno Smith for a year or 2. So certainly he's expected to go in the first round somewhere pretty high.
My questions.
But not a slam dunk in the top 3 based on the way that teams see him around the league.
Okay, there's always that quarterback, and I don't mean to put Shador in this box, that we just kind of sit and wait and watch, and we kind of see the sad face continue as the picks keep coming. We'll see what happens on April 24th. But this all kind of ties together because Russell Wilson's signing definitely impacted teams and what their decisions are going to be. The Steelers now wait on an Aaron Rodgers decision, of course. How sure of a bet, though, is it, or is it a sure bet, I should say, that Aaron Rodgers does become a Pittsburgh Steeler?
Yeah, Shay, I won't call anything a sure bet with Rodgers in his first foray into free agency, but the Pittsburgh Steelers do remain optimistic based on everything I'm hearing. They are willing to wait this out, and a lot of people I've talked to in the quarterback market, some sources close to, Jameis Winston's process, Russell Wilson, etc., they believe that Rodgers must have some sort of assurance from the Steelers or vice versa that they could end up together. They've already talked contract, potential parameter series, visited with the team, so there seems to be some good momentum, but it feels like it's either Steelers or retirement. The Vikings flirted with it a couple weeks ago, talking to people there. They feel like they're out of it, that they're going to roll with J.J. McCarthy. So does he continue to wait closer to the draft, or do they come to some sort of agreement? It appears that nothing's imminent right now, and you can expect the unpredictable with Aaron Rodgers typically.
All right, but we've really narrowed it down. Steelers or retirement seems like two very definite paths for one Aaron Rodgers. Of course, the draft, again, April 24th. The Steelers pick 21st in that draft. You can catch the whole first round, by the way, on ESPN. Jeremy Fowler, thank you.
Thank you, Shay.
Well, where Adam Schefter reports the Giants have agreed to a one-year, $21 million deal with quarterback Russell Wilson. This comes after New York already signed Jameis Winston. Wilson will be playing on his third team in 4 seasons after 10 years in Seattle. All right, let's bring in Adam and analyst Louis Riddick. Louis, starting with you, what's your take on the Giants adding both Wilson and Winston to their QB room?
Yeah, Jay, I think here you're seeing two different profiles in terms of the player that really carry with it two different sets of expectations. For Jameis, I think obviously he's going to be, locked in as the backup, the kind of guy who could come in and win you maybe 3 or 5 games, at least keep you very competitive in a pinch if necessary, because Jameis has done that. And he has shown that he is someone who can thrive in that role, who's going to stay ready, who's going to be a good locker room guy, who's going to be someone who supports who the starter is. For Russ, it's a little bit different. Obviously, Russ views himself differently at this point in his career. He views himself as someone who still is a capable bridge quarterback, meaning someone who can win you a good amount of games, keep you in contention, potentially even for playoffs, while at the same time knowing that the end of the road is almost near, has almost arrived for him as far as his career is concerned. And for the Giants, that's exactly what they're looking for, until they can find that long-term solution that John Mara, the owner, has said they need to find. So I guess it makes sense in that regard to have these two veterans, but it still isn't the answer that ultimately this organization is looking for and that this fan base so desperately wants.
Yeah, and Adam, Lewis just brought it up because Giants owner John Mara said very clearly, our number one priority is to find the quarterback of the future. So what do these moves mean in light of the G-men having the number 3 pick right now in the draft?
A lot of people asking that question, Hannah, and the answer is almost nothing. They're going to proceed in this draft as if they didn't make either of those two moves, signing Jameis Winston nor Russell Wilson. If the Giants can find a way to move up in this draft, to take the top quarterback in this draft, Cam Ward, I think they'll look to do that. If they decide that they like Shador Sanders at number 3 and want to do that, I think that's what they'll wind up doing if they have a high enough grade on Shador, which we don't know right now. But the fact that they've gone out and signed 2 quarterbacks influences nothing about the way that this team will approach the draft. It has its ideas on the quarterbacks it likes in this draft. John Mara has wanted to find a long-term solution, and despite the moves that they made in recent days, adding 2 veteran quarterbacks, they have not secured or procured a long-term quarterback for this future to go up against Dak Prescott, Jayden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so the number 3 pick right now, they have the 2nd pick in the 2nd round and the 1st pick in the 3rd round, Jay. All
right, Hannah, meanwhile, with Wilson in New York, the Steelers are left waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They have an offer on the table to him. Steelers defensive tackle Cam Hayward had said he was sick of waiting on the 4-time MVP, but listen to this, he might be changing his tune.
I was asked the question of, would you go to the lengths of going to a darkness retreat to recruit Aaron Rodgers? I said, I'm not doing that. The pitch is, if you want to be a Steeler, be a Steeler. When I look at our team right now, it would be really cool to have a guy like Aaron Rodgers. But, I can't be the guy who gets it over the finish line. I think he's got to make those decisions for himself, but, excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and he certainly hasn't already, despite a 6-hour meeting. And Cam Hayward, the veteran in the locker room, speaks for a lot of folks there. So they have Mason Rudolph. They have Skylar Thompson on the roster. They have the 21st pick. They have no second-round pick. Adam, what are you hearing about the Steelers' quarterback situation?
Yeah. Well, this isn't about whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers want Aaron Rodgers. They do. This is not about money or negotiations. That's not what it's about. I think Aaron Rodgers here, we're just waiting to hear a decision. And whether or not he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers or whether he doesn't want to play football. We have not heard anything from Aaron Rodgers addressing his future, addressing the idea of playing in Pittsburgh. But I can tell you there are people who in recent days have asked and wondered, does he want to play football? Is that something that he's pondering right now? And we don't know the answers. But the fact of the matter is, Pittsburgh's interest in Aaron Rodgers hasn't increased because Russell Wilson signed with the Jets. Their interest in Aaron Rodgers hasn't increased because Justin Fields, their other quarterback, also wound up in New York with the Jets. And so we've got a situation here where the Steelers have been waiting all along and they have not gotten an answer. And that begs the question, you want to play in Pittsburgh or do you not want